Glitch has just released the newest episode of the Amazing Digital Circus, and as we are closing in on the finale of the show, we have had some major character development, and although I try to talk about a new character each time, looks like Jax is getting back-to-back videos because holy was that a crazy episode. Not only does this episode strengthen the Jax haters, it also strengthens the Jax lovers because no matter what your views on Jax are, we are very close to a breakthrough here. You know it, I know it, and 100% Jax as a character knows it. Of course, as usual, instead of posting this video the second the episode dropped, I took a step back to analyze all these new details since you all deserve better than those half-baked theories people put together with no real evidence. After watching the episode for myself, this scene completely changed my perspective on Jax, while also being immediately disproven minutes later with this scene, which flips everything we thought we knew upside down. As you can see, these two scenes have very serious and separate tones and describes two different stories, which has drawn me to the conclusion that Jax is not sadistic, he's scared. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I realize putting this in the beginning makes people more inclined to support my upcoming videos, so with that said, let's get into it. Now, last time I talked a lot about why Jax is the way he is, and I claimed it is because he is grieving the abstraction of his friend Ribbit. Now, I am not about to say I was wrong because Jax grieving the death of his friend was obviously affecting him in more ways than one, but as we're moving past that ideology into why Jax is scared, we honestly need to prove why some people think Jax is sadistic. Trust me, I know where I'm going with this. It all starts at the very beginning of the episode where Jax just shoots Ragatha because he feels like it. Caine explains that they need to trust each other, and within moments, Jax ruins his entire plan by proving he doesn't trust Ragatha. The whole point of this being advertised as the "What if Digital Circus people were given guns" episode is because this is how we test to see how loyal these characters are to each other. To sum it up in the most patriotic American way possible, these weapons bring out the side of Jax some have hated since episode 2. To name just a couple of the sadistic things Jax does in this episode, he convinces Pomni that killing is funny, says he's the comedic character, he kinda just full-on unloads a whole magazine into Ragatha, torments Zooble with a song Caine would sing, he tells Pomni directly that he doesn't care if she lives or dies and that nothing they had together meant anything to him, and he full-on admits that he views everyone around him as his toys he's allowed to do whatever with. So I know the more I talk, the deeper hole I have to dig myself out of later, but I can't just act like none of this stuff didn't happen, because it did. This scene with Jax and Pomni was heartbreaking to hear because I always viewed Jax as my personal favorite, but it seems like we were getting another Myung Ji character arc for a moment until this scene happens, but we'll revisit that later. Now that I've been transparent about where people come from when it comes to Jax haters, it's time to disprove every reason why some people think Jax is sadistic. For starters, everything Jax claims is contrasted to something that happened later in the episode. When Jax is talking about the roles people in the digital circus have, did you notice that throughout the episode, all of their stereotypes are proven to be wrong? Really quickly, let's just see what Jax has to say about everyone from his own words.
Ragatha's the cheerful one, Gangle's the sad one, Kinger's the crazy one, Zooble's the grumpy one, and you are the one who hasn't figured that out yet.
To start out, I have made videos about Gangle, Kinger, and Zooble, and each of Jax's claims is something I had already proven wrong months ago. But to recap you, Gangle is not the sad one, she's just traumatized by the stress of her life before and during the digital circus. Kinger is not the crazy one. Him losing his wife had left him feeling emotionally broken. Zooble is not just the grumpy one. They feel isolated from the rest of the cast because of their appearance. Now, although I haven't talked about Ragatha yet, even in this episode, we see that she is struggling really hard with being happy and maybe on the verge of abstraction. This entire episode and the episodes building up to this have been designed to disprove what Jax says here because he believes they all fall into a specific category. Because Jax doesn't think Pomni has a characteristic yet, he tries to force her into being the villain along with him, something that would end up being reversed by the end of the episode and something that was fake from the start because of how Pomni acts every single other episode. This reveals to us that Jax is afraid of falling out of line with what had been established since the beginning. Jax is afraid of losing his meaning because the only thing that he can rely on till the end is himself. To take the idea of him relying on himself a bit further, let's talk about the most heated argument in the entire series so far. Near the end of the episode, after the hijinks of all the weapons, Jax and Pomni are the final ones, and unsure how to end the game, it seemed like the right time to betray each other. And betray each other is what they do, but Although Jax wanted Pomni to do it, turns out he'd be the betrayer. Everything we had learned in the previous episode and this one gets thrown out here in the most heartbreaking way because Jax lets out all his feelings to Pomni. Jax hurt her deeply throughout this scene. It hurts me too. This whole scene undermines any thought that Jax is misunderstood. Here's the thing though, Jax doesn't actually believe anything he says here, and even though he violently paints it clear his intention, this is where Pomni says the thing that inspired this entire video.
Because you're scared. You're scared, you'll actually show a human emotion.
Now we already know Jax had it hard back when Ribbit abstracted, as seen from the previous episode, but we still never got to hear their conversation they had. One that seemingly brought them closer together. Now I don't want to blame Pomni for this confrontation since she obviously never would have known that hugging Jax without his permission first is the reason this whole conversation would go down, but Pomni clears the air and realizes that Jax is too scared to love or even like anyone again after Ribbit, and even though without saying Ribbit's name, we know exactly how Pomni came to this conclusion. To also represent how Jax is scared, we clearly see him realize that he's actually opening up and stops himself by dropping it completely and just smiling because he still views himself as the funny one. He can't be taking anything seriously. Also, I just want to point out that Jax says he'd probably forget about Pomni, but honestly, we know he hadn't forgotten about Ribbit yet, so how can we trust anything Jax says about his emotions because it seems like Pomni knows more about him than he does himself. And the reason for that is because he keeps suppressing everything since he's too afraid to reflect on, feel sad, or grieve Ribbit. This leads me into my final point that proves he's scared and proves he doesn't believe any of the sadistic things he does. This is when we first see Jax reflect on his actions, something that he didn't do any other time. As I said, everything Jax says throughout this episode is disproven because something contrasts it, and when Jax breaks down on the verge of tears during his panic attack in the bathroom, his ego to show emotion to these tragedies is finally shown to just be an act, with the real Jax being a terrified reflection on how grief makes you push everyone around you away. I mean, he literally looks at his reflection in a mirror of what he's become. When he says,
God, you look stupid.
This also just shows us that he doesn't believe the things he says, as the last episode he was talking about how beautiful his avatar is. To close this video out, from what we know now, I would say that Jax may be the first to abstract if any one of them do. He says how people about to abstract aren't nice to be around, and throughout this show, no one has stuck by his side throughout everything he does, and just when it seems Pomni would stick by him, he pushes her away. It's sealing his own fate right now, and I'm sure if something doesn't change within the next episode, Jax is a goner. The depressing thing is that this ending scene proves that he knows he's at the end of the line, and it's only a matter of time before everything is over. With 3 episodes of the show left, I promise Ragatha will be within my next 3 videos, but no promises at the same time. I think this episode has some really strong parts, but I don't want to ignore my opinion that I think some of the stuff outside of Jax and Pomni is a little repetitive from the I learned something today format each episode keeps forcing into the ending. I still think this show is fantastic, but I definitely disagree a little bit with the hype surrounding this episode unless it's about Jax and Pomni, which then yes, that's the best part of the whole show, prove me wrong. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe as I'm trying to hit 40k subscribers by the end of the year. 2 final things, no video next week, but stay tuned on Sunday for a live stream to celebrate 5 years of Enchanted, and also free schlep. I don't have to be a Roblox YouTuber to say that. With that said, thank you everybody for watching. I'm Enchanted. Bye.